You are listening to Mind Over Me, the mental wellness podcast with me, Scott Carter. I am a licensed therapist and someone who is very mindful and aware of the decline in our collective mental health. I created this podcast so that we could have more direct and honest conversations about difficult topics and difficult issues. It's my goal to have honest but direct conversations that we need to have that are necessary. It's also my goal to give my listeners the information that they need in order to find their own mental health and mental wellness. This is where you will find the information that you need to be your own healer. And of course, all of this is based on years of clinical experience and expertise. Thank you for being here. Let's dive right in. All right, welcome back. This is Mind Over Me. Welcome back to the next episode. Thank you for being here. Thank you for listening. Today, in this episode, we're going to talk about anxiety. Everybody's got it. Anxiety has absolutely spiked in the last couple of decades, right? Ever since the invention of smartphones and social media being readily accessible, we have seen a drastic increase in anxiety, right? Everybody's got it. And there's really no good information out there about anxiety. If you have been listening to previous episodes, I've mentioned that I was building a course, my anxiety course. It is complete. It is published. It is live. I'm happy to report. So I'm doing a whole episode about anxiety. We're going to talk about anxiety, and hopefully I'm going to give you some correct and accurate information about it. Honestly, this topic is a mile wide. I would say a mile deep. It's kind of deep, but it's a mile wide. There's just a lot to take into consideration here. Like, what is anxiety? What contributes to it? What factors are involved? Why do people experience it? How do we get rid of it? How do we make it better? So I'm going to give you a lot of information about all of that. I'm going to attempt to answer many of those questions in this episode. And it's my goal, again, to give you the correct and accurate information about anxiety. And if you're smart, you're sitting there going, well, why should I listen to you compared to what you have to say about anxiety, compared to all the other yahoos out there who are talking about anxiety? Which is a fantastic question. You should be asking that, and you should be challenging people, and you should be thinking for yourself. My approach to anxiety, along with other things, mental health, in the mental health realm, my approach to anxiety is totally different, totally unconventional, which, if I'm going to advocate for myself, that's a great place to start, because what everybody else is doing is not frickin' working. Most mental health professionals, when they're trying to advise you on anxiety, frankly, they don't have a clue. I hear therapists are like, I'm thinking of one particular on TikTok, and she seems like a nice enough lady. She seems like she's very, very well intended, but she says, "Oh, I have anxiety." Right? This therapist, I think she's a psychologist actually. She says, I struggle with anxiety too, and I'm sitting there thinking like, so people shouldn't go to you if you to get anxiety treatment? Like, if you can't help yourself, if you can't solve that problem for yourself, how are people going to expect you to help them solve it? I mean, you want to go to a mechanic who's like their cars run down, and you're like, what's wrong with your car? And they go, well, I have no idea. And you're like, well, how are you going to fix it? And they're like, yeah, hell if I know. I'm pretty sure you'd find a different mechanic. I'm just saying. But again, this is perfectly acceptable now in the therapy world, mind you, that they can be a mental health professional can be totally clueless on how to help your anxiety, but you should just continue to go week after week and give them $150 a pop. I've mentioned in previous episodes that, frankly, I cured my own anxiety. I'll talk about that in a second, but I also help a lot of people with their anxiety. I teach them specific skills. I give them tools and skills and things to work on. I give them homework. And without a doubt, if they leave and they do the homework, they do the exercises, they do the homework, they do the skills, they use them, I mean, invariably, like almost every single time, like I'm trying to even think of a time when it didn't help. they come back and say, wow, that really helped. That really worked. My anxiety has really improved. I was horribly, and I mean horribly anxious when I was younger, my 20s and my 30s. Oh my God, crippling anxiety. So I know what it's like, right? I had the panic attacks and the crippling anxiety, and it would just shut me down and completely take over my whole mind. And my whole mind, my whole body is just shut down with anxiety, waiting for the next horrible thing to happen that inevitably would not happen, and it would turn out to be a nothing burger. But the trouble with anxiety, it's such a strong, loud emotion that it's just completely overwhelming, will completely hijack your mind and completely eclipse everything else. Anxiety, like the thing that anxiety has going for it is that it's extremely overwhelming emotion, or it can be, and a feeling too, because like it pervades in your whole body and your stomach and in your throat, and your whole body might be shaking, whatever. All in all, anxiety is a horrible experience, and um, it crippled my life when I was younger. Nowadays, I have zero anxiety. Like, it's gone. It is gone, gone, gone. Now, occasionally, very, very rarely, it will pop up and I'll notice it right away because I know what it feels like. I know how crappy it feels. I know how overwhelming it is. And when it pops up like this, I've gotten very, very good at using my skills, using my tools, pulling myself out of it. And then that's it. It's gone again. But I honestly could not tell you when that happened last. I mean, it was sometime last year. I think in the summer, maybe last summer sometime. 8, 9 months ago, something like that. I live without anxiety now. It is an absolute blessed relief. So my goal is to share with people not only the things that helped me get rid of it completely and entirely, but the things that I teach to my clients in therapy. I give them I teach them the tools. I teach them the skills. I give them homework. I challenge them to use it. I teach them exactly how to use it. And almost universally, they all come back and say, that really helped. My anxiety is so much improved. I've proven that this stuff works over and over and over again. So if I'm the one out here getting results for myself and other people, well, I like to think that would put me in good standing, right, to help other people. Okay, so let's just dive in, right? Let's get started. Okay, let's dive into this topic because there's just so much to anxiety. When you really start to intellectualize anxiety, like I really hunkered down to get it. I wanted to understand it. I just unpacked anxiety. I got busy unpacking it so I could understand it. And there's just a lot there. There's just a lot to understand about it. And you may be sitting there thinking like, well, are you going to tell us how to get rid of it? Honestly, not without like a whole series. This is why I built a course for this exact thing. Because let's bust one of these myths when it comes to curing anxiety, okay? There's no magic pill. There's no quick fix. There's no magic pill. There's no easy, effortless solution. The people who want quick, easy fixes, the people who want a magic pill, right? They're the people who are going to live their lives with anxiety. Okay, it won't go away on its own. Okay, when we talk about mental illness, I think there are too many people out there who think like, oh, mental illness, it's like a pathogen, almost like, getting sick or like getting the flu or something like that. And it'll eventually kind of go away on its own. That is not true. Okay. That is absolutely false. You need to get that nonsense out of your head. A lot of mental health is more akin to mental fitness, just like your regular fitness. If you are out of shape, if you were overweight, obese, and totally out of shape, right? And you were like, well, I'm going to go find a trainer who is going to give me, or a doctor who's just going to give me a magic pill, and suddenly I won't be overweight anymore and I'll be in shape. And I realize now that there are a lot of people out there who are like, well, what about Ozempic? Well, I can't. This is not my first rodeo. There have always been weight loss pills, and like I remember there was one in the '90s. I think it was called Fen or something like that. I don't. I didn't know much about it. I was a kid, and it was a weight loss drug, and a whole bunch of fucking people were taking it, and then they ended up in a massive class action lawsuit because it had horrible side effects, and I think people were even dropping dead from taking it. Even if something like Ozempic was a magic pill that just magically made you less overweight, you'd still be out of shape. You still would not have muscle. You would still have bad cardio, right? And besides, it's so important to earn the stuff yourself because you're just going to appreciate it more. So I realized that there's just a certain percentage of people out there that they just want the quick magic fix. To me, that is an immature, kind of childish way of looking at life in general. I mean, I did a whole episode about like, where did the adults go? It's just not enough people these days with like an adult type of mindset to think that there's just a magic, quick, easy, effortless fix to something like this. That's just not realistic. That's not based in reality. Okay, my anxiety's gone because I put a lot of effort into it. I worked at it. And frankly, for me, it kind of took a while. It took a long while because I was frankly kind of reinventing the wheel. Like I didn't have any good information. I had very little information out there that was good or helpful. Most mental health professionals, like I've already mentioned, have no idea what the fuck they're talking about when it comes to anxiety. They have no idea. They can't even agree on what anxiety is or how to really help it. Most therapists are just going to tell you to go to the doctor, like, oh, I have anxiety. Oh, go to the doctor and get medication. They tell you that because they're clueless on how to actually give you therapy that's going to help it. So here's just some of my points about anxiety. Okay, number one is, I'm really shooting from the hip, by the way, but number one, anxiety is not a problem. It's a symptom. And, the medical field, including therapists, they're very, very accustomed to just treating symptoms. That's what they do. They just treat symptoms. So if anxiety is a symptom, what is the actual problem? Well, sometimes the problem is trauma. Okay. There's no getting around that. Okay. Trauma has a kind of a breaking or shattering effect on the psyche and the mind. Did a whole episode about shattered minds. Go listen to it if you haven't already. I would recommend listening to that. I believe that should be the base theory of all mental illnesses are shattered or scattered minds. But the other problem when it comes to anxiety, okay, again, what is the core problem? To me, the core problem with anxiety is that the mind is a jumbled, tangled, unmitigated mess that's also lacking discipline. So think of it this way, right? As you grow older, we all know this. If you've taken any psychology class, you know that it takes a long time for your brain to fully mature. 25, 26 at the earliest, sometimes later, as late as 28 years old before your brain fully develops. Which means that as your brain matures, different brain functionings are going to activate or turn on as you grow. Those brain functions, when they turn on, are acting like a separate brain in of themselves. Okay, so really you have like 4 or 5 brains that are like slapped together. And without like work, proper training, effort, discipline, mastering your mind, mastering your thoughts, mastering your emotions, etc., 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 and left to its own devices, your brain's just going to be this jumbled, tangled mess. In a perfect world, we would start teaching children how to use their thinking skills and how to manage their emotions properly. We would give them the proper education of psychology, behavior, emotion, and thought, and all of that combined. So is that as they grow older, their mind isn't just this big, jumbled, tangled, overstimulated mess. So in part, I think part of the problem, right, is that our brains are just overactive, right? To me, anxiety is in part the product of overacted and overstimulated minds. It's not at all a coincidence, once again, that smartphones, the introduction of smartphones and social media have been like tightly correlated. Like as soon as those things landed in the hands of young people, we saw drastic spikes and increases in anxiety and social anxiety. Not a coincidence, people. I mean, it's like we can't ignore anymore. I mean, if If you're new here, I'm going off all the time about how technology, social media is really, really detrimental to your mental health. Don't just whimsically stare at social media for hours on end. You got to get out and do stuff. You got to get out and move. If you stay in this dark little corner in your room staring at your screen all the time, don't be surprised when your mental health is in a state of total deterioration. You got to peel yourself away from that thing. So now that we've identified the problem, what is the solution? Okay. Again, the problem is a scattered, tangled, right, undisciplined mind. The solution is to unscatter it, discipline it, learn some mental mastery, learn to take control of your mind. Instead of just letting, right, your mind and your emotions do whatever in the absolute fuck that it wants, it's just an unmitigated disaster. As a therapist, I've often heard people say things like, well, I can't control my thoughts. Well, yeah, you can. You can learn to. Or they go, oh, I don't have any control over what my mind does. Well, maybe you don't, but you can learn to. I mean, all of these things are false. I can't control what I think and what I feel. Well, I mean, you can learn to. I mean, those assumptions are false. And usually when I present those counter arguments, what comes next? Invariably, what comes next every single time, you might be thinking it yourself as you're sitting there in your car or wherever it is that you're listening to this, you're thinking, I would almost bet money that you are thinking this one thing as I'm talking about mastering your mind. Okay, it's these words. But that's hard. I'm not trying to make fun. I'm sorry. I just hear that so much because like, again, when we're talking about like, well, if you have the mind operating system that has not matured, right? If you're still thinking as a child instead of an adult, if it's hard, run away from it. Don't do it. Avoid it at all costs. Just live with this mental illness. The adult mindset is, well, life is hard no matter what you do. And the juice is worth the squeeze. I need to put effort into this. I will be happier if I solve this problem because nobody is going to fix it for me. That's another thing that I've noticed with those who like have an immature mindset is that, someone somewhere will come along and fix this problem for me. Because again, that's what happened when you were a kid. Like your mom would invariably come in and clean up your room for you or do your homework for you. And it can actually condition the brain into this notion that, well, if I just sit around and do nothing, eventually somebody will show up and fix this problem for me. Well, I mean, this is the end of the line for that. Like, no one's going to show up and fix your anxiety for you. That's not going to happen. That's just not going to happen. Okay, so like maybe notice, by the way, like here's maybe practice some insight right now and be like, do I avoid something just because it requires effort? It's big problem that we have these days. I truly believe that like society is in a state of total decay because like there's too many people that are like requires effort. Nope. Least amount of effort is humanly possible when it's important for all of us to accept responsibility and to contribute in a meaningful way rather than just take and take and take and take and take. Okay, so that was just a slight sidetrack, just a small one. Let's zoom back into anxiety. So if you understand the need to put effort into it and work at it, what you need to understand is that in order to not be anxious, you need to change your habits. You need to change a lot of habits. And most anxious people need to learn new thinking skills. The best way to master your emotions is to engage in various types of thinking skills. Okay, critical thinking skills, logical thinking skills, you know what I meant. There's just a lot here. I can't possibly cover it all. Again, all of this is in my course. Okay, that includes a section on cognitive therapy as well as cognitive behavioral therapy. There's a ton of homework in there, a ton of skills being taught, things to practice and things to try so that you can latch onto something that helps you feel better and gain greater control over your emotions. Honestly, they're relatively low effort to at least get some initial relief from anxiety. but you have to adopt new habits in order for them to stick and work and be effective in a longer term, like for the rest of your life. You just have to learn new habits. You have to adopt a new lifestyle. I mean, the same thing goes for good health and fitness. So really the process is unlearning certain things, learning new things, and doing those things enough and practicing them enough and using them enough so that you change as a person and that you develop new habits. What you have to recognize about anxiety is that most of the time these emotions are false. I mean, the problem is with anxiety is that people trust it, right? If your anxiety says something horrible is going to happen, people go, oh my God, this horrible thing's going to happen. And then the horrible thing doesn't happen and they forget that it didn't happen. And then tomorrow when anxiety tells them the same thing, they believe it again. And this happens on a daily basis. At some point, you have to build the insight and realize that, anxiety does this to me every day. It convinces me that something horrible is going to happen. That horrible thing never happens. And so I'm miserable through this. I suffer through anxiety. It cripples my life. And yet day in and day out, it tells me something horrible is going to happen. And day in and day out, I continue to listen to it and continue to believe it. See, anxiety feeds you fake scenarios. It's like most of it is fake or like greatly exaggerated. That one realization alone can make a huge difference. So, I mean, that's sort of the long answer of like, what is anxiety and how do we cure it? That's sort of the long answer. I probably should have put this earlier, but I want to spend the rest of this episode talking about things that people do that they think are going to make it better, but don't make it better. So anxiety works in a negative feedback loop. So let me give an example here, okay? So you think to yourself like, or maybe you feel anxious about going to work. It's Monday morning and you go, God, I don't want to go to work. I'm feeling really anxious about it. If I call in sick, and I avoid the anxious situation, then I won't be anxious. So that's what you end up doing. You call work and you go, oh, I'm really not feeling well today. I'm calling in sick today. I'm not going to make it. Okay. Well, we'll see you tomorrow, right? And then, you hang up the phone and you go, oh man, my anxiety is gone. I feel so much better. And then you stay home and you sit in front of the TV or stare at your phone, of course. Oh boy, now I have unlimited time to stare at social media now for 8 fucking hours in between potty breaks and food breaks. Right? And you're like, oh, well, my anxiety's gone for now. Well, what happens tomorrow? What happens when you wake up again tomorrow? Well, guess who's back? Well, anxiety is, and it was worse than it was yesterday, right? Because now you have all these thoughts in your head. Well, what if my boss is upset with me and thinks I was just making things up? What if my boss thinks that I was lying about not being able to come into work? And what if now my job is on the line, right? Now your anxiety's worse, right? Now it's worse. And then you become more avoidant, right? Anxiety causes us to become more avoidant. We start avoiding people. We start avoiding conversations, situations, this and that and the other. Okay, so you might go to work because you know you have to, and then you white knuckle through it. And then the next day you go, oh, hey, can I just work from home today? And your boss is like, oh, yeah, that's fine. You can work from home. Oh, my anxiety is temporarily fine again, and do a little bit of work from home. Well, what happens again the next day? It's Wednesday now. Well, how's your anxiety that day? 10 times worse, right? So here's the thing, right? People seek these temporary reliefs, right? Well, if I stay home and inside now, my anxiety is relieved right now, but then it's twice as bad tomorrow. So people think that they're helping their anxiety by avoiding the thing that makes them anxious. You can't avoid life forever. You can't avoid work or school or social gatherings or whatever forever. The more you avoid things, the more anxious you're going to feel. So while it might give you temporary relief, in the long run, it's just going to get worse and worse and worse. You start to get smaller and smaller and smaller. You start eliminating things from your life. It's like, well, I probably should go to the gym and work out. Oh, my anxiety is telling me no because, like, oh, what if people are looking at me there? What if people are judging me there? I'm just going to stay home this time. Okay, good. I don't feel anxious about going to the gym anymore. Well, what happens tomorrow? Well, now you're twice as anxious about going to the gym tomorrow and far less likely to go. So, this negative feedback loop, right? You shrink and your life shrinks. You start shave, you start, don't do that. That's gross. Um, you start shaving things out of your life, relationships, things like going to the gym, jobs, work, opportunities, hanging out with your friends, going to right? Maybe going to the movies, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. You start eliminating those things from your life because you're feeling anxious. But before you know it, like you're confining yourself to this tight little space known as your comfort zone. And comfort zones are a problem. That's where your dreams go to die. That's where your life goes to die. So maybe kind of another example, very similar. I mean, I work with teenagers. Teenagers these days have so much social anxiety, right? And so what I see is like a teenager will wake up and go, "Mom, I'm so anxious. I don't want to go to school." And of course their mom say, "Oh, you don't want to go to school because it makes you anxious. Okay, just stay here where it's comfortable and safe." And so maybe mom is like, I should get them to a therapist." And unfortunately, there's too many damn therapists these days. Way too many of them. It pisses me off. It makes me so mad. Where they go, "Oh, it makes him anxious." Well, don't make him do it then. Fucking what? That's terrible advice. That is horrible advice. They're not telling you how to get rid of the anxiety. They're not telling you how to systematically get the kid back to school so they face their fears and work through it and become resilient. No. The therapist is like, "Oh, it makes them anxious." Well, don't force them to do it then. Because there's too many damn therapists. Here I go. Here's my rant. There's too many damn therapists now who are like, "Oh, it's uncomfortable. Don't do it then." It's just atrociously bad advice. Like, it's appallingly bad advice. Any therapist that tells you to do things that temporarily satiate the anxiety but makes the overall problem worse is a bad therapist. You should fire them. Don't. If you take your kid to a therapist, they go, "Oh, pushing them to school makes them anxious." Well, maybe you should do online school then. That's not going to fix the problem. That's only going to make them more anxious. They're going to be more confined to their home. They're not out there making friends. They're not out there having experiences. They're not out there learning to work through it and not feel anxious. Instead, now they're just doing online school. They're isolated. They're lonely. And now they're horribly depressed as well. This is the worst thing you can do. Like, if you have a kid who has social anxiety and is going to school and is like, "Oh, I'm just really anxious. I don't want to go to school." The worst thing you can do is be like, "Oh, okay, well, let's just do online school from now on." Well, congratulations. That kid's never likely going to get rid of, like, you have just by virtue of doing that one thing, like, you can seriously set them up for like long-term failure. The anxiety's not going to go away. That's the main thing that people do, where they think that it's going to help their anxiety and it's only going to make it worse. And just a few other things that make it worse. Number one, isolation. Okay, if you go in your room and you shut the door and you stare at your phone for hours on end, it's going to isolate you. It's a very isolating thing to do. The more you isolate, the more it's just going to get a grip on your mind, and you're going to, like, this is how you lose touch with reality, okay? And you can do it to the extent that it can actually cause psychosis, which is a loss of touch with reality. You're going to start and think that the reality that you see on social media is a true reflection of what's actually happening outside of your house, when they are drastically different. Okay, the lack of physical movement makes it worse, okay? You need to move. You need to get up and move. Like, depression and anxiety have a hard time hitting a moving target. The more movement you create, the better it is for you. Create movement. I mean, especially exercise. Go outside, get some sunshine, be in nature, walk your dog, whatever. Like, move, do stuff. Being totally sedentary, I mean, that's going to be one of your worst enemies. Okay, so those really are just some of the main things. There are a few others, but that's all I'm going to cover for now. Those are the things that are just going to make your anxiety worse, okay? And again, like if anxiety is allowed to just not take its course in your life, it's going to ruin your life. Okay? You're going to die lonely and with regret. You're not going to be able to live. And other people are going to be out there living their life. And you're going to think, "Oh, that's for them and not for me." No, that's for you. You're supposed to be out there doing all of that shit too. That's your life. And so anxiety will take it from you. Okay. You got to learn to recognize anxiety, stop listening to it, and just do something different. So my anxiety course is designed to be taken over the course of like 6 to 8 weeks. It's a step-by-step process to take one principle and then build on it with the next and the next and the next, and then putting a whole bunch of skills, tools, habits, practices, all kinds of things together all at once in the end. Again, if you use them, you're going to feel better. If you use them and incorporate them long enough, you're going to change your habits, and your mind is going to change. Your habits going to change, and as a result, your lifestyles are going to change, and then you can live without anxiety. You can go and live. My course is extremely robust. There's 8 sections to it, including at the end a whole section specifically for social anxiety, okay? At the end, the last section, I take all the skills that we had covered before and apply them specifically to social anxiety. Because there's a little bit of a difference between like, I'm afraid a bear is going to kill me if I leave the house versus like, people are looking at me, people are judging me, that type of thing. So again, the course is live. I got it done. I'm actually proud of myself for getting it done and completing it. I mostly worked on it and completed it just so that I could prove to myself that I could finish something. I'm getting better at finishing things and seeing things through. That's very, very positive for me. Now, normally on my podcast episodes, I do shadow work journal prompts. This is probably going to be the one episode or one of the very few episodes where I'm going to skip it. This episode was mostly to like talk about anxiety and basically announce that I launched my course on anxiety, that it is live, it is ready to take, and I promise you it's going to cost you a lot less than if you attended that many weeks worth of therapy, because again, it's meant to last 6 to 8 weeks. It's self-paced, but I recommend taking time to do the homework and practicing the homework before moving on to the next thing. And if you do it in the span of 6 to 8 weeks, it's going to cost you a hell of a lot less than if you were going to therapy every week. So I will put the link in the description, in the show notes of this podcast. Again, it's available now. Or you can go directly to my website, saltcitycounseling.com. Click on courses. There's a drop-down menu. Click on courses. And it'll take you right there. It's the only course that's live. Down the road, I have other courses planned. That'll be later. That's just going to be later. So don't worry about that right now. It's the only one on there. You can't miss it. So go take the anxiety course. It's going to help you a lot. I promise. So let's wrap this up. I got other shit to do, my friends. But thank you so much for being here. Thank you for listening. I hope you found this informative and helpful. Don't forget to follow, subscribe. Go follow me over on X. Go check out my website for articles and such, saltcitycounseling.com. Thank you again for being here. And remember, you must do hard things.